In case of emergency, this is the plenary hall exit plan. For guests situated at the rostrum, the nearest exits are at the north and south rostrum. For occupants at the first floor and front rows of the VIP gallery, the north, south, and main entrance exits are available. For occupants at the VIP gallery, the main entrance and north and south VIP exits are available. For occupants at the second floor gallery, there are exits available at both sides. For occupants at the third floor gallery, there are available exits at the east and west sides. In case of emergency, this is the plenary hall exit plan. For guests situated at the rostrum, the nearest exits are at the north and south rostrum. For occupants at the first floor and front rows of the VIP gallery, the north, south, and main entrance exits are available. For occupants at the VIP gallery, the main entrance and north and south VIP exits are available. For occupants at the second floor gallery, there are exits available at both sides. For occupants at the third floor gallery, there are available exits at the east and west sides.
The session is called to order. Please stand for the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupit, di ka pasisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong paghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na naglilingling, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng waraming pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for the invocation to be delivered by Representative Julian Jam Baronda.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of divine being. Almighty Father, we come to you in thanksgiving for this opportunity to be present in this august chamber to help craft a better and brighter future for our nation. Let us be the voices of the voiceless, the helpless, the poor. Let us be instruments of your justice, love, and peace. May you bless our people, especially those who are faced with tough challenges, those who are caught in distress, and those who are burdened to be resilient and be faithful. Enable them to lift to you their predicaments. May their supplications be heard. May their cries for help be answered, and may their words be replaced with a deeper faith in you. Lord God, as we start another week of lawmaking, may you allow us to be the champion of your divine will. May we be agents of positive change, and may we be true shepherds of the Filipino people. This we ask in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Maayong hapon. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we move to suspend sessions.
Session suspended.
Open. I will already. Wait, today. We will question. Pakalmahin muna natin yung isa. Mas 10 minutes na. Parang surrender na ako. Ayaw talaga magpa.
Anana, rugay na, El, Paling anak. Asa din mo? Last week,
Hindi kami kay speaker.
Saan tayo dadaan? Dito, tayo
Oy, di open yun ah.
Ako lang pa. 10 minutes na, boss.
10 minutes ng round. Dito na tayo banda. Sabihan ko sila.
10 minutes lang. Kasi, konti lang, konti lang. I'm going to stand up and question the code.
Ayusin ko yan.
Bye. Musta bay? How are you?
161. Wala pa. Lang pa rin. Counted those that
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we move to call the roll of members.
The Secretary General is directed to call the roll of members.
Roll call of members. Honorable Representatives Abalos, Abante, Abunda, Acharon, Asidre, Acop, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Angara, Aquino, Aquino Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Ataide, Omentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernos, Bilyones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulot Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayon Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro Franz, Castro Jean, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalaw, Ko Angelica Natasha, Ko Elizaldi, Copilar, Cojuangco Jaime Eduardo Mark, Cojuangco Mark, Colada, Colliantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cua, Quaresma, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayanghirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Dimaporo Muhammad Khalid, Dimaporo City Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael Carlos, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Enverga, Escudero, Espares, Espina, Estrella, Udela, Farinas, Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fuentebella, Galeos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Guardiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Goed Christopher, Gomark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gintu, Gulyas, Gutierrez, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horibata, Javier, Ko Olga Aram, Ko Ricardo, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sani, Lara, Lezatin, Lee, Legarda, Libanan, Lim Kay Chong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Manikiz, Manuel, Maranyon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marinho, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Nograles Juan Fidel Felipe, Nograles Margarita, Nolasco, Owaminal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Uano Dizon, Padiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Pleito, Primicia Sagabas, Pumaren, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Rehencia, Remulla, Revilla Brian, Revilla Ramon Jolo, Reyes, Rilio, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez Eulogio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Ieda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sali, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulug, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Mihan, Solon, Suwan, Suwansing Horacio, Suwansing Micaela Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Tan Watko, Tariela, Teodoro, Teves, Tiangco, Tieng, Tolentino, Tulfo Erwin, Tulfo Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Tutor, T, Umali, Unabia, Ungab, Uy, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco,
Veloso Tuazon, Vergara, Versosa, Villa, Villafuerte Luis Raymond, Villafuerte Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yamsuan, Yap Christian Tel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, Yu Divina Grace, Yu Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri, Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 206 members responded to the call.
With 206 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, considering that copies of Journal Number 49, dated February 6 and 7, 2024, were already distributed to the members, I move to dispense with the reading of the said journal and subsequently to approve the same. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. The reading of Journal Number 49, dated February 6 and 7, 2024, is dispensed with, and the same is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of the bills and resolutions for first reading, as well as communications and committee reports. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The Secretary General is directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports for referral to their appropriate committees.
Reference of business. Bills on first reading. House Bill 9872, establishing a College of Medicine in the Eastern Samar State University in Borongan, Eastern Samar, to be known as the Eastern Samar State University College of Medicine, by Representative Libanan.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 9877, declaring July 27 of every year a special national non-working holiday, amending RA 9645, the commemoration of the founding anniversary of Iglesia Ni Cristo Act, by Representative Suwan.
To the Committee on Revision of Laws.
House Bill 9878, establishing Libingan ng Mga Bayani Annexed in Mindanao, by Representative Suwan.
To the Committee on National Defense and Security.
House Bill number 9879, declaring May 14 and 15 of every year is a local special non-working holiday in Madrid, Surigao del Sur, by Representative Momo.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9880, declaring November 21 of every year as a local special non-working holiday in Bayaba, Surigao del Sur, by Representative Momo.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9881, declaring June 13 of every year as a local special non-working holiday in San Miguel, Surigao del Sur by Representative Momo.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9882, declaring June 16 of every year as Araw ng Baybay, a special non-working holiday in Baybay, Leyte in commemoration of its Charter Day by Representative Kari.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9883, right-sizing the number of barangay tanods by Representative Copilar.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9884, rationalizing the Cavite Center for Mental Health located in 13 Martires, Cavite by Representative Remulla.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9885, rationalizing the General Emilio Aguinaldo Memorial Hospital located in 13 Martires, Cavite by Representative Remulla.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 9886, condoning the penalties on the loans secured by the Network Consolidated Cooperative Bank, formerly the Cooperative Bank of Leyte, Inc., from the Agricultural Credit Policy Council in the year 1997 by Representative Espares.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
House Bill 9887, mandating the waiver of transfer and transaction fees imposed by financial institutions on electronic transfer and disbursement of funds involving financial or cash aid programs of the government for indigents by Representative Vergara.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
House Bill 9888, providing for financial literacy and fraud prevention programs for Filipino workers by Representative Yamsuan.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 9889, vesting the DA the power to impose and regulate farm gate prices for highly perishable vegetables by Representative Yap Eric.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 9892, extending the corporate life and expanding the powers of the Philippine International Trading Corporation by Representative Vergara.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill 9893, providing for the automatic annual adjustment of the pensions of retirees from the government who are members of the GSIS by Representative Ordanes.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill 9894, establishing the Philippine Eagle Center in Bukidnon by Representative Alba.
To the Committee on Natural Resources.
House Bill 9895, granting tax deductions to parents and legal guardians of children and youth with special needs by Representative Villar.
To the Committee on Welfare of Children.
House Bill 9896, granting additional privileges to children and youth with special needs by Representative Villar.
To the Committee on Welfare of Children.
House Bill 9897, providing for a comprehensive, accessible, and affordable early detection and timely intervention services for children with special needs by Representative Villar.
To the Committee on Welfare of Children.
House Bill 9898, promoting the health and well-being of Filipinos, providing for the purpose the establishment of a community fitness and wellness center in every barangay in the country by Representative Villar.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 9899, establishing a Las Piñas City Children and Youth with Special Needs Rehabilitation Center by Representative Villar.
To the Committee on Welfare of Children.
House Bill 9900, providing for the employment of nurses, assigning at least one registered nurse for every barangay in the Philippines by Representative Villar.
To the Committee on Local Government.
Resolutions. House Resolution 1574, directing the appropriate House Committee to conduct an inquiry into the unfair business practice of car dealerships in mandatorily requiring consumers to purchase new motor vehicles through in-house financing by Representative Kong Hoon.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1578, expressing the profound condolences of the House of Representatives to the family of the Honorable Baltasar A. Sator, former representative of the 2nd Legislative District of Davao del Norte during the 8th, 9th, and 10th Congresses, by Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Gonzales Aurelio, Dalipe, Libanan, Marcos, Romualdez Yeda Marie, and Asidre.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1579, expressing the profound condolences of the House to the family of Honorable Aniceto Galdo Saludo Jr., former representative of the Lone Legislative District of Southern Leyte during the 11th and 12th Congresses, by Representatives Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Gonzales Aurelio, Dalipe, Libanan, Marcos, Romualdez Yeda Marie, and Asidre.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1580, expressing the profound condolences of the House on the passing of Mr. Roldeo T. Endrenal by Representative Ataide.
To the Committee on Rules.
Message from the Senate. Message dated February 6, 2024, informing the House of Representatives that on February 5, 2024, the Senate designated Senators Revilla, Gatchalian, and Pimentel as conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 1964 and House Bill number 9682 on institutionalizing the grant of a teaching allowance for public school teachers.
To the Committee on Rules.
Communications. Various letters and reports submitted by local government chief executives and officials regarding their fund utilization and status of program project implementation of the Local Government Support Fund.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
Letter dated January 10, 2024 of the LBP President and CEO submitting to the House of Representatives a copy of the report on the utilization of funds for the Unconditional Cash Transfer Program for the fourth quarter of CY 2023.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
Letters dated January 24 and 26, 2024 of the BSP Bank Officer 6, Office of the General Counsel in Legal Services, transmitting to the House duly certified copies of certain BSP issuances.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Committee reports. Committee report numbers 958 and 959 submitted by the Committee on Basic Education and Culture and Appropriations on House Bill numbers 9890 and 9891, respectively. Committee report 960 submitted by the Committee on Local Government on House Bill 9904.
The aforementioned committee reports are all referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the guests of Congressman Adrian A.J. Vincula of the 3rd District of Cavite, namely Barangay Captains of the 3rd District of Imus Cavite, namely Honorary Melquidades Cananay, Honorary Ruben Bautista, Reynaldo Borromeo, Natividad Aquilino, Edgardo Reyes, Kent Luis Salvador, Zosimo Camia Jr., Efren Esguerra Jr., Ruben Tined Jr., Carlito D. Carino, Kaiser Hardin, Gina Hinson, Alner Cruz, Nelson Ponsalan Jr., Silvestre Nato, Ricardo Ocampo, Wilfredo Ramos, Carlito Tagle, and Benavido Acuña. Thank you, Mr.
To the guests of the Honorable Gentleman Adrian J. A.J. Avincula, welcome to the House of Representatives. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the guests of the representative of the 5th District of Manila, Erwin Cheng. His guests are Chairman John Katanghal Jimenea, Chairman Arnaldo Balonso Albay, Chairman Artemio Balolong Salazar, Chairman Richard Yomo Salazar, Chairman Marisa Jimenez Medina, Chairman Felisa Librador Abor, Chairman Clemente Madrid Esta Jr., Chairman Nel Dan Aquilar Blas, Chairman Joel Blas Halocon, and Chairman Marjorie Ann Gonzalez Castillo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To the guests of the Honorable Gentleman Erwin Ting, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, before we proceed, I'd like to acknowledge the guests of the Honorable Jervil Jinky Luistro from the 2nd District of Batangas, and they are as followed. Lina Angelo, Vicky Caringal, Melanie Maliglig, Gemaline Mendoza, Odette Espina, Mary Ann Ilao, Jonah Pabelona, Maria Cheryl Adarlo, Rowena Di Pasupil, Felicima Española, Lorena Amarente, Elestria de los Reyes, Eileen Zante, Asuncion Pangilinan, Lorna Maranan, Edna Galin, Mary Joy Mahia, Mary Joy Anes, Nilda Austria, Bibilin Magistrado, Leonil Anglo, Corazon Samson, Norlinda Datingginoo, Dory Bardigas, Arlene Garcia, Mirna Balitaan, Sharon Maya, Maricon Fundan, Jasmine de Guzman, Graziela Mortiz, Marife Magsino, Vilma Ledesma, Mercy Magtibay, Jeneline Mendoza, Elma Buendia, Inday Gonda, Jean Lopez, Elizabeth Ramos, Loril Mutyang Pili, Norieta Kabatay, Ray Patrick Salvador, Angelo Manongsong, Leonila Santos. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
To the guests of the Honorable Congresswoman Jerville Jinky Luistro, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the guests of the Honorable Congresswoman Marisa Delmar Magsino from the OFW party list, namely Mr. Raymond Mitra, Mr. Vicrod Brosas, Ms. Annie Bersimira, Ms. Maita Tarayo, Ms. Gloria Dizon, Carolina Balotro, Malu Maligaya, Charo Yu, Estelita Bunye, Jojo Dasas, Cora Dasas, Elsa Vita, Jaime Cura, Luz Cura, Nona Dalongdong. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
To the guests of the Honorable Congresswoman Marisa Delmar Magsino, welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you for your visit. Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, today being a Monday, and pursuant to our rules, I move that we open the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The chair declares a privilege hour. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the gentleman from the 1st District of Lanao del Sur, the Honorable Zia Alonto Adjong, be recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
Honorable Zia Adjong is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise is due to Almighty Allah, the sovereign creator of the universe, the God of no equal. Peace and blessings be upon the last messenger of God, the seal of the prophets, Prophet Muhammad al-Hashimiyya. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'alahi wa barakatuh. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Mr. Speaker, today I rise as a proud member of the House of Representatives, an institution that embodies the essence of democracy and the collective will of the Filipino people. I wish to address the careless comments of Senator Joel Villanueva, maligning our party list representatives and by extension, the House of Representatives. This is his comments, and I quote, "We cannot say na equal ang isang party list representative sa isang senador. Never." Unquote. Mr. Speaker, para po sa karagdagang konteksto, narito po ang video.
We cannot say na equal ang isang party list representative sa isang senador. Never. Ilan bang naboto nakukuha ng pinakamababang senador ngayon, Mr. President? 15 million votes, Mr. President? Ang Batanes, for instance, 6,000, 7,000 vote? You're a congressman? I don't have anything against Congress again, Mr. President. But can you really compare apples to oranges? Mr. President, it's ridiculous also. But for me, the most insulting is the fact that when our people ask to vote for their senators, they are aware of what they are voting for. National leaders po ito. National leaders. Hindi pang distrito. Hindi pang party list representative. And now, what will happen? Are we talking about disenfranchising our voters now? We cannot say na
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to Senator Joel Villanueva, he gravely misrepresented the nature of the two houses which comprise Congress. Siya po ay nagkakamali sa kanyang pangmamaliit sa mga party list representatives. Mr. Speaker, the 1987 Constitution vests legislative power in one Congress, iisang Kongreso, shared between the House of Representatives and the Senate. This is what the Constitution referred to as the bicameral legislature. This bicameral nature, Mr. Speaker, aims at diversifying perspectives. The House, with its ear to the ground, closely monitoring the heartbeat of the districts, meeting and coordinating directly with the people. And the Senate looks towards more overarching national and international issues. The two houses present themselves as checks to each other. The Senate ensures that bills are in line with national interests, while the House of Representatives ensures that these same bills do not disregard the needs and the rights of the people. Magkakaakibat, Mr. Speaker, magkaakibat ang dalawang parte ng Kongreso sa pagpasa ng mga batas na ikakabuti ng ating bansa. Under this current Constitution, Mr. Speaker, one cannot exist without the other. Hindi gagana ang Senado ng walang House of Representatives. Gayon din, Mr. Speaker, ang House of Representatives kung walang Senado. Mr. Speaker, in the history of the Philippine legislature, we have seen both forms. It was unicameral under the Malolos Congress, the American-controlled Philippine Commission, the 1935 National Assembly, and the 1973 Batasang Pambansa. It shifted back and forth with a bicameral form, most prominently in 1916 under the Jones Act, under the 1940 Amendment to the National Assembly, and under this current 1987 Philippine Constitution. Mr. Speaker, we have seen that throughout history, there is a tendency to return to the bicameral form as one which is more attuned to our needs as a nation of diverse voices. Makikita po natin na mula noon hanggang ngayon, ang House of Representatives ay matatag na nanatili maging anuman ang porma ng lehislatura. All throughout this country's political history, and we've experienced and seen the changing of legislature in form and in size from unicameral to bicameral. But never, Mr. Speaker, did we experience the abolition of the House of Representatives. Ang mga terminong mataas o mababang kapulungan ay di mahanap sa konstitusyon. These are terms adopted as a matter of convenience, considering that there was a time, Mr. Speaker, when the Philippine Congress shared one building in which the Senate occupied the upper floors and the House of Representatives occupied the lower floors. Meaning, Mr. Speaker, it only describes office location, never about ranking or authority. In other legislatures, Mr. Speaker, which inspired our own, the term referred to the size of each chamber, with the lower house being the more numerous. Kaya nga po, Mr. Speaker, karamihan din po sa atin dito, ang gusto nila ay bigger house. We are the bigger house because indeed, we are bigger in numbers. Personally, Mr. Speaker, I have no trouble accepting the term lower house. Not because the house is inferior, no, never. But it only simply means that it is part of Congress, which is closer to and rooted in the needs of the people. This fact presents itself in the powers granted by the Constitution and exercising its supreme power, the power of the purse. The General Appropriations Bill must originate from the House. The Supreme Act emanating from the part of Congress more attuned to the supreme authority, which is the people. Our journey, Mr. Speaker, in crafting legislation is a testament to the strength of our collegial nature, where diverse voices converge for the greater good of our nation. Mr. Speaker, the framers of the current Constitution understands that with the geographic realities of this country, its ethnic and cultural diversity, the people may only be represented by a House of Representatives that is as diverse as they are. The division between the electorate of the House and the Senate does not lend itself to a hierarchy based on number of votes. It is a mode expressly chosen to ensure even the smallest districts has equal standing to exercise legislative power. Isang pagbabaliwala sa saligang batas ang mga komentong ito ng ating dakilang senador. Ang binilang ng mga boto para sa mga miyembro ng Kongreso ay nariyan lamang upang malaman ng COMELEC kung sino ang nanalo sa eleksyon at kung sino ang maaaring umupo sa Kongreso. Hindi po yan basihan ang bilang ng boto sa laki o liit ng mandato ng isang miyembro ng Kongreso. To further stress that fact, Mr. Speaker, the current party-list system, which the good senator has maligned and was created expressly to lend a voice, was created, Mr. Speaker, to expressly lend a voice to the voiceless. This is a system, Mr. Speaker, that ensures that the most deserving under the law, according to the late President Magsaysay, are given their due hand in legislating for the nation. It is an innovation, Mr. Speaker, which the Supreme Court in Atong Paglaom versus COMELEC explains, and I quote, "The innovation is a party-list system that would expand opportunities for electoral participation to allow those who could not win in the legislative district elections a fair chance to enter the House of Representatives other than through the district election system," unquote. The good senator should be knowledgeable, Mr. Speaker, of this fact, considering that he himself was a party-list representative serving this Congress for a time. Mr. Speaker, to follow the good senator's logic would lead to a tyranny of numbers, where districts most deserving of aid and development, such as in my district in Llano del Sur, would be starved to continually feed Metro Manila, which is a vote-rich area. It would lead to a system that is obsessed with projects for vote-rich districts, Mr. Speaker. I cannot accept that a statesman such as himself would hold such a myopic view of the legislative branch. Mr. Speaker, we are all equal public servants, and only the people are superior to us. Tayong mga kongresista at senador ay parehong miyembro ng iisang 19th Congress. Mr. Speaker, parliamentary courtesy is a cornerstone of our proceedings. It is through this courtesy that we engage in respectful debates, recognizing the value of each member who brings topic or issues to the table. The give and take of ideas fuel the democratic engine, enabling us to refine policies that would truly address the needs of our constituents. In fighting, Mr. Speaker, however, pose a grave disservice to the very people we are sworn to serve. Our disagreements must and should be channeled constructively, fostering an environment where the best ideas rise to the top. A divided House weakens our ability to respond effectively to the challenges facing our country, hindering progress and hindering the realization of our shared vision for a better Philippines. Tayong lahat po, Mr. Speaker, na miyembro ng Kongresong ito ay nasa serbisyo publiko. Kung meron po tayong hindi pagkakaintindihan, i-focus po natin sa issue. Huwag natin daanin sa aruganteng pananalita. Let us recommit ourselves to the principles that define our institution, Mr. Speaker. Cooperation, understanding, and a dedication to the common good. Together, Mr. Speaker, we can rise above this discord, or any discord for that matter, navigate through our differences, and emerge stronger as advocates for the Filipino people. Let us sit down and talk. Let us put an end to this name-calling. And for God, let us start and get back to work. May we uphold the sacred trust bestowed upon us by our constituents, and may our actions be a beacon of hope for the united and prosperous Philippines. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mayang hapon kaninyong tanan.
Thank you for standing up for the House and its members, Congressman Adyong. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that the gentleman from the Ako Bicol Party List, the Honorable Jill Bungalon, be recognized for his interpellation.
The gentleman from Ako Bicol Party List is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, would the good gentleman from Lanao del Sur yield to few questions?
Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to share insights with the gentleman from Ako Bicol Party List.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After hearing your privileged speech with regard to the unparliamentary remarks of Senator Joel Villanueva, for me, Mr. Speaker, as a first-termer and a party list representative, I felt very insulted. And I would like to express that in this august body. At any rate, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, is there anything under the 1987 Constitution that tells us that the Senate is supreme over the House of Representatives because of the votes garnered in the election?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as a response, the basis, Mr. Speaker, the only basis for us to determine the mandate, which is spelled out in one document, and this is the 1987 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, under Article 6, Section 1, it only speaks about the legislative power vested in Congress of the Philippines, which shall consist of two chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate of the Philippines. Never did the Constitution or anywhere in the Constitution mention anything about votes must be equal to a more or to a superior mandate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if the line of the logic, Mr. Speaker, is the number of votes garnered, if we follow, Mr. Speaker, that logic, it also would be applied to not only the legislature, but even the executive. For example, kung ang mayor dito, kunti ang boto niya, tapos mas superior ba ang mayor ng mas malaking boto? It only speaks about for the COMELEC to determine the winners in an election. Never about ranking or authority or superior mandate, Mr. Speaker. So the response to that, Mr. Speaker, is very clear. Wala po na nagsasabing mas superior ang Senado dahil nakakakuha po sila ng mas maraming boto kaysa mga miyembro po ng party list at district representatives sa House of Representatives.
Thank you for that very clear explanation, distinguished colleague. I asked that question, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, because I couldn't understand why Senator Joel Villanueva could make such disappointing statements against members of the House of Representatives, particularly the members of the party list, when he himself, Mr. Speaker, was once a member of this chamber as a party list representative. Going to another point, Mr. Speaker, may I ask the distinguished colleague if he knows a person named Janet Lim Napoles?
Well, Mr. Speaker, she appears to be so famous a couple of years ago. Yes, I happen to be familiar with the name, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, basically, it is already a public knowledge that Ms. Janet Lim Napoles is a businesswoman who is convicted for plunder, and the one who masterminded the PDAP scam. Now, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, may I know what is the involvement of Senator Joel Villanueva in the PDAP scam?
Well, to put it in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, there was an allegation that our good senator, when he was, I guess, still serving as a congressman, there was a case which implying his office that he was involved in the PDAF scam. That is actually the case. I believe there was already a decision that was made about the case. So I think the defense of the good senator is that his signature was forged. That's the primary defense that he argued before the courts, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, so the mere fact that he was identified in this very controversial scam, therefore he knew about the PDAP scam and therefore he is related to Ms. Janet Lim Napoles. Is that correct, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague?
Well, I would agree, Mr. Speaker, at some point, if you are charged with something as grave as that, you would probably have an inkling on how the case or the charges filed against you. And I think the defense, Mr. Speaker, is that the signature was forged, but if I were, for example, if I were in his shoes, I would probably file cases, those persons who have forged my signature. So dapat, kung galit ka talaga, dapat, kung ako yun, dapat nag-file na lang ako ng kaso doon sa nag-forge ng signature ko.
Thank you, distinguished colleague. So, considering that he knew about the Napoles scam, and you mentioned a while ago that allegedly his signatures were forged, and may I just state for the record and ask the distinguished colleague if the good senator filed a case against this accuser, Janet Lim Napoles, to prove that he doesn't know, or even if he is not even connected with this convicted plunderer.
Well, I think on a personal, individual filing of charges from his office or from his person, I haven't read or I would not know that such a filing of cases against Janet Napoles on the basis of forgery of his signature was ever filed before the proper courts, Mr. Speaker. So my understanding is there was no case filed against the forging of the signature and may perhaps against Janet Napoles.
At any rate, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the distinguished colleague from the Lanao del Sur for standing up for this institution, for the House of Representatives, and even for the party list representatives. That would be all, Mr. Speaker, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the privileged speech of the Honorable Zia Alonto Jong be referred to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech as well as the reaction of Attorney Congressman Bongalon is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the distinguished lady from the OFW party list, the Honorable Marisa Del Mar Magsino, be recognized to avail of the remaining privilege hour.
The Honorable Marisa Del Mar Magsino is recognized.
Bakit ganito? Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Ginoong Speaker, Mga kapwa ko mambabatas, muli po akong tumitindig sa inyong harapan bilang personal at kolektibong pribilehiyo upang talakayin ang mga pangarap at kabiguan ng ating mga overseas Filipino workers na naghangad magtungo at magtrabaho sa Estados Unidos at Dubai, mga bansang tinaguriang mga lupang pangako or promised lands. To many Filipinos, the promised land is a foreign country where they can be employed and receive comparatively higher wages and benefits, enjoy better standards of living, and earn their way to a prosperous life for their families. Today, the United States is considered as the most powerful country and one of the strongest economies in the world today. Is the top country of choice of our Filipino migrants and overseas workers. And Hawaii, which became the 50th state of the U.S. in 1959, remains a major destination. The Filipino population in Hawaii is now estimated at 300,000 or 15% of Hawaii's total population. Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, ang kinatawan pong ito ng OFW Party List ay nagkaroon ng pagkakataong bumisita sa Hawaii noong Oktubre ng nakaraang taon upang kumustahin at alamin ang kalagayan ng ating mga OFWs sa naturang estado. Sa aking pakikipagpulong sa mga opisyal ng ating embahada doon, sa pangunguna po ng ating Consul General Emil Fernandez at Consul Grace Bulos, nabatid po natin ang patuloy na suporta ng ating pamahalaan sa mga Pilipinong naapektuhan ng malawakang wildfires na naganap sa isla ng Maui noong Agosto noong nakaraang taon. Nagpapasalamat po tayo sa Philippine government natin sa pangunguna ng mahal nating Pangulo, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at ng ating DFA Secretary Manalo at ng ating leadership ng ating mababang kapulungan, Speaker Martin Romualdez, dahil sa patuloy na pagtulong at sa pagpapadala ng ayuda in cash assistance sa ating mga biktima ng Maui sa Hawaii. Nabigyan din po tayo ng ulat ukol sa mga paghahanda ng ating embahada sa pakikipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang organisasyon at komunidad ng mga Pilipino sa Hawaii para sa ating overseas voters registration doon. Sa pangkalahatan, masasabi ko pong maayos ang kalagayan ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino sa Hawaii, dulot na rin po ng maayos na pagsubaybay at pagbibigay tulong ng ating konsulado sa kanila sa panahon ng pangangailangan. But Mr. Speaker, the total picture of our OFWs in Hawaii is not all completely rosy. A dark cloud also looms above the promised land. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, there are a number of OFWs in Hawaii working as fishermen whose employers are owners of U.S. vessels engaged in longline fishing in the waters off the Hawaiian coast. They are joined by other fishermen from Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Pacific Islands. Our consulate in Hawaii estimates that out of the total 750 fishermen involved in the activity, roughly 65% are Filipinos. Many of them have been employed in this industry for 10 or 15 years already. In describing their situation, our consulate assures us that they are generally well taken care of by their employers who abide by regulations under the UN ILO Convention 29 the ILO Work in Fishing Convention number 188, and by the U.S. Department of Labor pertaining to recruitment, wages and benefits, health and safety, grievance mechanisms, and freedom of movement in the workplace. The Migrant Workers Office of the Department of Migrant Workers in Los Angeles and the Philippine Consulate also conduct regular missions and year-end gatherings with our OFW fishermen to extend medical services, provide them with food, clothing, and other supplies, and to check on their general conditions. Mr. Speaker, I am very sad to say, if that is so, what then is the catch? Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, ang binabanggit ko pong mga mangingisdang OFW sa Hawaii ay nagtatrabaho doon na walang U.S. employment visas. No employment visas from the U.S. Ang kanilang pananatili at pagtatrabaho doon ay pinahihintulutan lamang ng U.S. government under a special arrangement. Dahil po dito, limitado ang kanilang paggalaw at hindi sila maaaring lumabas sa nasasakupang port or pantalan, liban kung masama ang panahon at nanganganib ang kanilang buhay, o sila ay nangangailangan ng serbisyo medikal o ng serbisyo ng ating konsulado. Kung susuriing mabuti, nayuyurakan ang kanilang kakayahang pumunta sa mga lugar na kanilang ninanais o yung ating freedom of movement, wala pong security of tenure, maaaring sabihin pwede silang ipadeport ng US immigration anytime dahil sa walang employment visa. Kaya't ang tanong, Mr. Speaker, what is this special arrangement na basihan ang pananatili at pagtatrabaho ng ating mangingisdang OFW sa Hawaii sa kabila ng kawalan ng US employment visa? Ito ba ay may visa na isang kontrata o pagitan lang po ng kung sinong mga parties or partido? Hanggang kailan ito magtatagal? Up to when will this issue be there? Dumadaan ba ito sa supervision ng Department of Migrant Workers, particular hinggil sa proseso ng recruitment? Hindi ba maaaring mabigyan ng ating mga OFWs ang ating mga mangingisda ng regular employment visas or at least mabigyan ng US citizenship, lalo na sa mga matatagal na sa gawaing ito for 10, 15, or 20 years? And mind you, Mr. Speaker, how much are they getting? Our fishermen, my dear colleagues, is getting only $500 a month. Dapat po dito na lang po sila nagtrabaho sa Pilipinas. They should have stayed in the Philippines and they will still earn $500 or 25,000 pesos a month. Mr. Speaker, we sought from our consulate in Hawaii and from the DMW the answers to these questions. As we are told, Mr. Speaker, our OFWs who work as fishermen in the U.S. vessels in Hawaii are engaged in longline fishing of migratory fish, tuna in particular. They are allowed to work under a special arrangement, though without an employment visa. The fact of the matter is that the long-standing U.S. immigration policy, which prohibits the granting of employment visas to foreign fishermen. The special arrangement, however, Mr. Speaker, is an exception with the owners of the vessels. It is an exception with the owners of the vessels and with the full consent of and close coordination with the U.S. Border Control and Immigration authorities. See, there is a very close coordination. How does it work? Our OFW fishermen are fetched by their foreign employers as pre-arranged upon arrival in Honolulu port from a third country by sea, like such as Mexico. They are under contract for 1 year and subject to renewal. However, as aforementioned, they are restricted only within the fishing vessels and premises of the port. And we have been informed, Mr. Speaker, that they will not qualify for any U.S. citizenship, notwithstanding any long period of employment under said special arrangement. Yan po ang problema, Mr. Speaker. Kahit pa maituturing na maayos ang kanilang kalagayan sa aspeto ng kanilang pagtatrabaho sa Hawaii bilang mga mangingisda, mahirap po ang sitwasyon nila. Hindi po sila nakakalabas sa port. Hindi po nila nasasagap ang air ng Hawaii, ng US. They cannot even go to the malls. They cannot even roam around and enjoy what is it to be in a US port, in a US country. Ang katawagan po dito, sila po ay nasa mahirap na sitwasyon na hindi makalabas, hindi makapamasyal sa labas ng port ng Honolulu. Sila'y mistulang bilanggo sa bilangguang walang rehas. They are like in jail. They are a cage. Modern Filipinos cage in a jail. Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, madiin ko pong iminungkahi sa Department of Foreign Affairs at Department of Migrant Workers na pagtuunan po ng pansin kung maaari mabigyan ng employment visas ang ating mga mangingisdang OFW sa Hawaii sa pamamagitan po, and this is very important, we already have and should have a bilateral labor agreement sa pagitan po ng Pilipinas at ng United States. Mr. Speaker, like any other employment overseas, the DMW is duty-bound to supervise and review the special arrangement. And in this case, it is within their jurisdiction ng ating pong Migrant Workers Office in Los Angeles, California. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, since our concerned OFW fishermen do not possess any working visas, our Migrant Workers Office cannot verify their employment contracts. That being the case, their contracts every now and then are at risk of being not renewed. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, there are now several vessel owners in this arrangement that need to be getting their re-accreditation or be re-accredited by the U.S. authorities to employ Filipino fishermen. And failure to do so, Mr. Speaker, would result to the slots intended for our OFWs to go to the crew from other countries, an impending loss of job opportunities for our beloved OFWs. Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, ang panawagang ito sa ating consular officials at DMW upang aksyonan ang mga suliraning ito ng ating mga mangingisdang OFW sa Hawaii ay naglalayong gawing makatotohanan ang kanilang pangarap na makarating sa Promised Land, ang tinawag nating lupaing pangako, at matikman ang isang masagana, comfortable, matatag na pamumuhay para sa kanilang sarili at kanilang pamilya. Ang pangarap na magkaroon ng isang matatag, maayos, siguradong hanap buhay. Sana'y huwag tuluyang mabigo ang pangarap nilang ito. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, this time, allow me to talk about another promised land in the eyes of our overseas Filipino workers. Let's go to Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It is one of the fastest booming business, health technology, tourism, and other industries in the world today. It is travel-friendly, safe, and with a religious tolerance, making it a much sought-after work destination to our OFWs. Last November, last year, this representation with our very own minority leader, Marcelino Libanan, and other members of our hardworking minority bloc had the chance to visit and consult with the officials of the Philippine Consulate General. We met with Consul General Renato Dueñas, Labor Attaché Jan Rio Bautista, Vice Consul Alea Marie Gica, Welfare Officer Esperanza Covarrubias, and other officials of the post. We were also able to meet with the Filipino community leaders from the different parts of UAE, and of course, our very own OFW party list leaders in UAE. The Filipino community in UAE is composed of permanent migrants and overseas Filipino workers who have made UAE their temporary or permanent home. Majority of the Filipinos in Dubai, they are in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. In 2020, Mr. Speaker, the Philippine Embassy in Abu Dhabi reported that we have around whopping 643,403 Filipinos in UAE. The sizable population establishes Filipinos as the third largest expatriate community in the UAE, following, of course, the Indians and Pakistanis. Filipinos constitute approximately 5.56% of UAE's total population and a significant 12.86% of Dubai's populace. The United Arab Emirates' economic and social landscapes have been profoundly affected by our OFWs, who hugely contribute to its expansion and growth. They play a very crucial role in sectors like education, domestic services, hospitality, healthcare, construction, making up an essential part of UAE's labor force. Their remittances in the Philippines, which totaled $1.35 billion in 2022 alone, provides their families with a lifeline and boosts the economy of our very country. Our OFWs, Mr. Speaker, strong work ethics, their flexibility, their command of English greatly improve UAE's workforce and increase its level of international competitiveness. In essence, Mr. Speaker, our beloved OFWs have become an indispensable thread in UAE's economic and social fabric, driving growth, prosperity, and cultural diversity. But disturbingly too, it has been reported, Mr. Speaker, that there are around 500,000 OFWs in UAE who are now holding only tourist visas. They arrive in Dubai via a third country as tourists, but with the intention to look for work, or lured by agencies with promises of employment. Some of them have successfully found employers who provided them with employment visas, fine and well. However, Mr. Speaker, for those unsuccessful in finding legitimate employment without securing employment visas, they have to exit UAE and go to a nearby country upon expiration of their tourist visas, and from there attempt to renew their UAE tourist visas, a rather circuitous and precarious scheme that makes these OFWs vulnerable to human trafficking, illegal recruitment, and the possibility of getting stranded, a practice that is bound to victimize more Filipinos unless we stop or reform this pernicious scheme. Mr. Speaker, ang isa pa pong malalim na problemang kinakaharap ng ating mga kababayan, hindi lamang po sa Dubai, kundi sa buong United Arab Emirates, ay ang ating mga children born out of wedlock. Dahil po sa takot, sila po'y tinatago ng kanilang mga magulang, kahit hanggang sila'y dumating sa kanilang school age years at hindi makapag-aral. Karuktong po nito, wala pong pagkakilanlan whether sila'y Filipino. Ano po bang kanilang nationality? Are they stateless? Walang angkla sa ating kultura. They do not know anything about our culture, our heritage, though they are Filipinos. Tinalakay din po natin ang ibang suliranin ng ating mga OFW sa UAE, tulad ng pangangailangan ng legal assistance, amnestia, sa mga lumalaking undocumented Filipinos, programa po para sa mga OFWs with critical illness, and reintegration program for our OFW returnees. Once again, please, I call the attention of the Department of Migrant Workers, the Department of Foreign Affairs, to this concern of our OFWs in the United Arab Emirates, particularly in Dubai, who even against insurmountable odds, with the threat of vulnerability hanging above their heads, struggle hard to secure a stable and well-paying job in Dubai, na isa pong promised land sa mata ng ating mga OFWs. Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, hindi po tayo manghihinawa o mapapagod sa paglalakbay sa different countries, sa iba't ibang lupain, upang magsumika po tayo na mangarap na ang ating mga OFWs ay mabigyan ng magandang kinabukasan para sa kanilang mga sarili at sa kanilang mga pamilya. Upang tuklasin natin, alamin at suriin ang mga suliranin, ang kanilang mga problema with all their problems na hinaharap po nila dahil ito po ay nagbabantang wakasan ang kanilang magagandang pangarap. Hindi rin po tayo magsasawa sa pagtawag ng pansin ng mga kinauukulang ahensya ng ating gobyerno na tuparin at tumalima sa kanilang mandato at kalingain, ayudahan at bantayan, proteksyonan ang mga karapatan, ang mga kapakanan ng ating mga OFWs at kanilang pamilya sa lahat po ng aspeto ng yugto ng kanilang paghahanap buhay sa iba't ibang bansa. Patuloy rin po tayong makikipagtulungan sa mga different agencies to be able to uplift the lives of our OFWs para maipatupad ang ating advokasya ng OFW Party List na itaguyod ang ating mga OFWs bilang mga makabagong bayani ng ating bansa. Mr. Speaker, the milk and honey in the promised lands may be a utopian dream, but we can only do so much for our OFWs to help them achieve a realistic version of their dreams for the benefit of the families they leave behind. Sa ating pong mga hakbang na tatahakin sa pulisiyang mga programang ito, masolusyonan ang mga suliranin ng ating mga migrante, ng ating mga OFWs, lagi-lagi po tayong tatalima dahil sa paniniwala po ng inyong lingkod of this representation, Congresswoman Marisa Delmar Magsino ng OFW Party List, OFW, kayo po ang bida. Maraming salamat po, magandang hapon, at sa inyo po, Mr. Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, mahal ko po kayong lahat. God bless us all.
Daghang salamat. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the distinguished gentleman from the 1st District of Oriental Mindoro, the Honorable Arnan Panaligan, be recognized for his interpellation.
The distinguished gentleman from Oriental Mindoro is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much to the Majority Leader, Congressman Fortes. Would the distinguished lady from OFW Party List yield to a few questions?
My pleasure, Kong Art.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me express my appreciation to Congresswoman Magsino for delivering a speech on the plight of our OFWs, particularly in the US and Dubai. As a congressman from a district, from a province with a big number of OFWs, I truly appreciate the work that Congresswoman Magsino is doing for the benefit of our millions of OFWs, the so-called Bagong Bayani, who sacrifice, who leave their families, their homes, in order to earn abroad, in foreign lands, in distant lands, and to support their families. Indeed, our OFWs perform a very big sacrifice for their families of our countries. And of course, Mr. Speaker, what Congresswoman Magsino is doing as a party list representative is a proof, a demonstration of the vital importance that our party list groups are doing. Yung pong ginagawa ni Congresswoman Magsino ay patunay na ang mga party list po natin ay hindi dapat baliwalain, hindi dapat maliitin, sapagkat ang kanilang ginagampanan ay napakahalaga.
Thank you so much.
Sumasakayin po ba ang ating kinatawan from party list?
I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Kong Panaligan.
Maraming salamat po, Congresswoman Magsino. Kaya siguro, yung nagmamaliit sa mga party list natin ay dapat naman ay mag-isip-isip at kanila ding kilalanin ang ginagawa ng ating mga kinatawan from our party list sector. Now, Mr. Speaker, gusto ko lang sabihin ito, no, na ako ay medyo nagulat, no, to learn about the plight of a certain segment of our OFWs in Hawaii. No? We all know that the US, the so-called land of milk and honey, the promised land, talagang yan ay paradise para sa mga OFW natin. But I am surprised to learn from Congresswoman Magsino na meron para tayong mga OFWs sa US, particularly in Hawaii, na ang kanilang working conditions ay hindi maganda. We know that many of our fellow Filipinos have migrated to the US. They have stayed there for many years, for decades, in pursuit of the American dream. Yes. And many of our countrymen have indeed lived the American dream. They enjoyed the American dream. So I was surprised to learn na meron pa tayo mga ilang kababayan doon sa Honolulu, particularly Filipino fishermen, na ang kalagayan ay hindi masyadong maayos. So I would like to thank our Congresswoman from party list OFW for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Now, Congresswoman, distinguished lady from OFW party list, can we know the reason why the U.S. government, as a matter of policy, prohibits the grant of employment visas to foreign fishermen?
Yes, Kong Panaligan. Ang ating pong U.S. immigration policy do not allow giving U.S. employment visa sa ating mga fishermen, so our migrant workers office cannot do so much because they do not have any employment visa. And that's the very reason, Kong Panaligan, that I would like to ask the Department of Migrant Workers and the Department of Foreign Affairs to be able to do a bilateral labor agreement for the U.S., for the United States and the Philippines to agree on a bilateral agreement giving an employment visa to our Filipino fishermen who have been there for 10, 15, or 20 years, at least to be fair with them, Kong Panaligan. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Congress, to the representative from OFW party list. But is that policy of the U.S. applies only to Filipino fishermen or to all foreign fishermen?
Mr. Speaker, the U.S. policy applies to all foreign fishermen.
Thank you very much, Madam. But according to you, the U.S. government allowed them to work in Hawaii under a special arrangement with their employees. What is the reason for this grant of a special arrangement for Filipino fishermen?
Mr. Speaker, the U.S. authorities only giving the special arrangement with the U.S.-owned vehicles for the fishing long line fishery vehicle owners, vessel owners, because there is a special arrangement within the U.S. control border and the immigration officers of the U.S. that when our fishermen arrive in the Honolulu port, they will be from a country such as Mexico. It is already understood that they are in a special arrangement visa, but not really a visa, only a special arrangement. In Tagalog, I don't know if I would like to say this, in Tagalog, sila na lang po ang nagkakaintindihan kung ano po ang gusto nilang ipatupad.
I see,
Mr. Speaker.
Very interesting. No? This
Very
is the first time that I
interesting.
learned about that arrangement, considering that we know for a fact that U.S. immigration policy is very strict.
Yes.
So, thank you, Congresswoman, for bringing this to our attention. No?
Thank you so much.
What do you think are the concrete steps that our government can take to, as to represent the fishermen? What concrete steps can DFA, for example, and DMW undertake on behalf of our fishermen?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Companaligan, it is very clear that we call the attention of the Department of Migrant Workers, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and I even asked personally Yusek P.Y. Kaunan to go and see our fishermen in Honolulu, and she was able to talk to them in person. And now we are already drafting some guidelines to be able to make sure that any arrangement or any bilateral labor agreement in the future, it has to contain the benefits that has to be given to our OFW fishermen. Because as of now, we cannot call them an OFW because they do not have any employment visa. So our migrant workers office cannot even touch anything because they have nothing. They have no contracts. They have nothing. So the real reason now is to really sit down and make sure that this should be enforced as soon as possible to be able to improve the lives and working condition of our OFW fishermen in Hawaii, and that I promise that we will do that the soonest possible time. Mr. Speaker, Kang Panaligan.
Thank you very much, Kong Magsino. We will count on you and resolve our support sa
Thank
ginagawa po niyong ito. Mr. Speaker, Congressman Magsino, ang katayuan ng ating mga mangingisdang Pilipino na sa Honolulu, palagay ko isa lamang manifestasyon ng kalagayan ng mga mangingisdang Pilipino, no? Sa ating bansa at sa ibang lugar ng mundong ito. Alam naman natin, ang ating mga mangingisda ngayon ay may problema. No? Yung ating traditional fishing grounds sa West Philippine Sea ay hindi nila mapangisdaan dahil sila ay hinahabog, itinataboy ng bansang China. Kaya sila napipilitang magpunta sa kung saan-saan. Kaya whether sa Honolulu, sa West Philippine Sea, yan ang kalagayan ng ating mga mangingisdang Pilipino. Kaya we should really take the cudgels for them, saan man sila nandoon. Karagatan man natin, or in foreign seas, I believe that we should really fight for the interest of Filipino fisherfolk. Mr. Speaker, once again, I extend my appreciation to what Congresswoman Magsino is doing on behalf of our OFWs, whether legal, meaning with proper papers, and yung mga walang mga working visas na nasa ibang lugar, nasa UAE, nasa Arab countries. And I believe that DMW and DFA should fight for the interest of Filipino workers, whether or not meron silang working visas or working as tourist lang, katulad ng sinabi ni Congresswoman Magsino. So, once again, Congratulations, Congressman Magsino, and rest assured of the support of this representation from Oriental Mindoro sa ginagawa ng inyong party list.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kampanaligan, Oriental Mindoro. Mabuhay po kayo. And the Speaker, just to add, Mr. Speaker, that the families of our fishermen in Hawaii are receiving almost 80% of the $500 and most of our families are still complaining because they thought, why only this much when you are in a U.S. soil? They didn't even know the real story behind, and they didn't even know the real condition of their loved ones in Hawaii. So I would like to state that hopefully with this privileged speech that I have this afternoon will open the minds of the families of our fishermen in Hawaii. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, to my dear colleagues. God bless us all. We love you po.
Thank you very much po, Mr. Speaker. And Madam Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman Panaligan.
Thank you, Congressman Panaligan. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Marisa Del Mar Magsino together with the interpellations of the Honorable Arman Panaligan to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection to the motion of the Majority Leader? The Chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Congresswoman Marisa Del Mar Magsino as well as the interpellation of Congressman Panaligan is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Ria Vergara of the 3rd District of Nueva Ecija for her privileged speech.
The Honorable Ria Vergara is recognized. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, my esteemed colleagues, guests, my fellow Filipinos present here and virtually, good afternoon. Amidst this hostile and harmful time when so much mudslinging, name-calling, and political misunderstandings proliferate in full view of the public, I call on all my fellow Filipino citizens to extend to our duly elected President, Bongbong Marcos, the courtesy, respect, and dignity that his office deserves. We should not tolerate threats of secession and unfounded verbal attacks against our president as acceptable and civilized political rhetoric. According to a New York Times article, scholars who study political violence point to a common thread: the heightened use of bellicose, dehumanizing, and apocalyptic language by prominent figures can lead to destabilization. And to those who would say that such is merely an exercise of free speech, let us remember that the right to free speech is tied to an obligation and moral responsibility not to propagate false news with a reckless disregard for truth. Freedom of speech, while the hallmark of democracy, must be exercised with civility, respect, and most of all, responsibility. Unsubstantiated allegations, smear campaigns, and attacks meant to tarnish reputations, these below-the-belt attacks against our president proliferating in social media under the guise of free speech has an insidious objective: to instill doubt and uncertainty in our president's capability to lead. It is inciting those who view this to despise him and ultimately to divide our nation. The harm principle is the idea that people are free to act as they wish as long as their actions do not cause harm to others. So it is with free speech. We are free to say what we want as long as we do not violate the rights of others or advocate hatred or incite violence. This is especially true when the one speaking is held in high regard by so many Filipinos, myself included. Ayon sa sambuhay noong Fiesta ng Santo Niño, nalatha ni Ginoong Vince Henry M. Sales, sinabi po niya, "Makapangyarihan ang salita. Kapag sinabi ng pulis na, 'You're under arrest,' or ng traffic enforcer na, 'Sir, beating the red light po kayo,' o ng boss mo na, 'You're fired,' o promoted ka to senior manager, naapektuhan nito ang realidad sa paligid. May pagbabagong nangyayari sa pamamagitan lamang ng simpleng mga salita. Kaya nitong magpakalma ng damdamin, kaya rin nitong magkaligalig, kaya nitong mapasigla sa taong nalulungkot, at kaya rin itong makasira ng reputasyon. Kaya dapat iniingatan natin ang mga binibitawan nating mga salita. Ani ni Jesus, sinasabi ko sa inyo, sa araw ng paghuhukom, pananagutan ng mga tao ang bawat sinabi nila ng walang batayan. Batay sa sarili mong salita, katatanggaping matuwid, at batay sa sarili mo ring salita, kahahatulan. Mateo, Kapitulo 12, verso 36-37. In times of dissent, Mr. Speaker, let us engage in civil and rational discourse, provide constructive criticism, and listen with open minds. We must refrain from spreading misinformation, engaging in smear campaigns, or resorting to unwarranted threats and crab mentality. These destructive behaviors only distort the truth, foster meaningless disagreements, and lead to futile quarrels. In this age of pervasive fake news, we must be vigilant, not only in our quest for the truth, but in upholding and fighting for truth to ensure it prevails above all else. Sa panahon ngayon, mahalaga na suportahan natin ang ating Pangulo, si President Bongbong Marcos, at manindigan laban sa mga walang basing atake at mga pekeng balita. Ang pagpapakalat ng mga kasinungalingan at pag-atake na walang basehan ay hindi makakatulong sa ating bayan. Kailangan natin magkaisa at magtaguyod ng katotohanan para sa tunay na pag-unlad ng ating bansa. Sa aking mga kapwa Pilipino, nananawagan po ako na tuluyan nating suportahan si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Our President's vision of Bagong Pilipinas hopes to transform our beloved country by tapping into each individual's innate goodness, and through our own personal development and continuous improvement, will spur and lead to a collective movement of positive change for our beloved country. Let us all support and contribute to this goal of a better and brighter future for our country. Magkaisa, magtulungan, at maging bukas tayo na maging kasangga ni Pangulong Marcos sa pagtupad sa mga mabubuting mitiin niya para sa ating bayan. Let's all be Filipinos supporting Filipinos. Let us all be more disciplined and have integrity and compassion. Let's cultivate patience and honesty and nurture our faith. Let's discern the truth, and most importantly, let us be united in our sense of duty and patriotism and love of country. This is the vision of the Bagong Pilipino. Citizens who will work together to transform our country, let us engage in nation building. Sama-sama, magkakaagapay, tulong-tulong. And let us put an end to this ongoing war of words. To paraphrase the words of a popular socialite vlogger who comes from Nueva Ecija, no more bashing, please. Magandang hapon po, and God bless the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Vergara to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Vergara is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the privilege hour be extended for another 30 minutes to allow others to avail of the privilege hour.
Indeed. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion of the Majority Leader is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Franz Castro of the ACT Teachers Party List for her privilege speech.
The Honorable Franz Castro is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker. Magandang araw, Ginoong Speaker, sa mga kapwa ko kinatawan at sa ating mga kababayan. Nito lamang Enero ay inilabas ng Department of Education ang DepEd Order No. 2 Series of 2024 tungkol sa immediate removal of administrative tasks of public school teachers. Nakasaad dito ang agarang pagtatanggal ng mga non-teaching tasks ng mga guro upang mas nakapokus na lamang sila sa pagtuturo. Matagal na itong hinaing ng mga guro na kulang na nga ang sahod ay napakarami pang dagdag na trabaho sa kanila maliban sa pagtuturo. Madalas ay walang sapat na non-teaching personnel or education support personnel sa mga paaralan upang gumampan sa mga administrative tasks tulad ng pagiging librarian, nurse, guard, property custodian, registrar, school coordinators, canteen managers, school clerks, guidance counselors, utility workers, at iba pa. Kung kaya't napipilitan ang mga guro na mag-multitask upang mapunuan ang kakulangan at makapagbigay rin ng maayos na serbisyo. Matagal na nga ang panawagan namin na nararapat na mag-deload na ang mga guro ng mga administrative tasks upang mabawasan ang kanilang workload para magkaroon ng kalidad na edukasyon. Dahil marami ng mga guro ang nababurn out sa dami ng trabaho. Mas magagampanan na ng mga guro ng maayos ang lesson planning, classroom instructions, at student support kung wala nang dagdag na trabaho maliban sa pagtuturo. Ngunit ang paglalabas ng DepEd ng ganitong kautusan ay hindi isinaalang-alang ang kagyat na solusyon sa problema ng mga paaralan na may kakulangan sa education support personnel. Ayon sa DepEd order, to augment the non-teaching personnel requirements of schools, the following measures shall be implemented. Letter A, SDOs may cluster deployed non-teaching personnel in accordance with the deployment parameters issued by BHROD. And letter B, SDOs and schools may hire personnel under contract of service or job order which may be charged either against their MOOE or other alternatives sources of funding. Ang ginawa ng DepEd ay ang pagdideploy ng education support personnel o staff mula sa division office sa pamamagitan ng clustering, kung saan ang isang administrative officer ay magsisilbi sa mas maraming paaralan. Nakasaad rin na maaring mag-hire ng personnel bilang COS or JO, Contract of Service, na i-charge sa MOOE ng mga paaralan na alam naman natin na kulang, kaya nga ang guro ang pumapalit sa mga gawain. Nakakalungkot na kasabay ng deloading para sa mga guro ay ang pagdaragdag naman ng gawain ng mga administrative officers, ang mga education support personnel. Designating the same AOs and staff to multiple schools, also known as clustering, should not be made an option as it would only overwork the administrative officers. Ang kagyat na kailangan natin ngayon ay magdagdag ng additional plantilla para sa education support personnel para hindi naman ma-overwork ang ating mga kasalukuyang AOs. At hindi lang AOs, Mr. Speaker, ang kailangan natin. Ito ang dapat na binibigyang pansin ng administrasyon at hindi kung saan nilalagay ang pondo ng taong bayan. Sa kasalukuyan, mayroong 43,014 unfilled positions sa ilalim ng DepEd, Office of the Secretary, para sa teaching and non-teaching personnel noong 2023. Ngunit hindi malinaw kung ilan dito ang para sa mga non-teaching at nasa 5,000 lamang ay inaprobahan ng DBM para sa creation ng plantilla positions para sa 2023. Kung pagbabatayan natin ang bilang ng mga public schools na aabot sa 47,000 at kung ito ay may 5 education support personnel kada paaralan, tinatayang dapat nasa 235,000 ang ating mga education support personnel items, kung saan halos 1/4 ito ng buong teaching force para makatulong sa pagde-deload ng mga administrative tasks at makakapagsulong ng dekalidad na edukasyon. Alam naman natin na taon-taon na mandato ng bawat ahensya ng gobyerno na punuan itong mga unfilled positions para hindi nasasayang ang pondo na nilalaan dito, ngunit palaging bigo ang DepEd dito na magkaroon pa sila ng mga unutilized funds. Muli, nananawagan tayo sa DepEd, sa DBM, pati na rin sa administrasyon na agaran ng punuan ang mga bakanting posisyon at magkaroon pa ng mga dagdag na posisyon, hindi lamang para sa mga education support personnel, ngunit pati na rin sa mga guro upang masolusyonan na ang problema sa kakulangan ng mga posisyon at overwork. Ito ang pagde-deload ng mga administrative tasks ng mga guro ay hindi lamang para sa mga guro, kundi mas makikinabang ang mga estudyante at iba pang mga education stakeholders at magkakaroon pa ng dekalidad na edukasyon. Ito lang po, Mr. Speaker, magandang hapong muli at para sa ating mga kinatawan.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Sir Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Franz Castro to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Franz Castro is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Arlene Brosas of Gabriela Party List for her privileged speech.
The Honorable Arlene Brosas is recognized.
Hello, magandang hapon po, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ito po ay talumpati hinggil sa 1 Billion Rising 2024. Isa sa 3 babae sa buong mundo ang nakararanas ng pambubugbog, pananakit, sexual na karahasan o panggagahasa sa kanyang tanang buhay, batay sa pandaigdigang estadistika. Katumbas ito ng 1 bilyong babae at batang babae. 1 bilyong babaeng bumabangon laban sa karahasan sa mga kababaihan at laban sa abuso at inhustisya. Dito nagsimula ang 1 Billion Rising, pinakamalaking sama-samang pagkilos para wakasan ang violence against women, pati na ang gender-based violence. Kaya naman, tuwing buwan ng Pebrero mula taong 2013, tumitindig tayo dito sa Pilipinas kasama ang iba't ibang bansa upang ipakita ang lakas ng nagkakaisang kababaihan at mamamayan na lumalaban sa abuso at pananaig ng kultura ng impunidad. Inilulunsad ito sa tinaguriang Araw ng Mga Puso o February 14. Dahil sa araw na ito, itinatag ang tinatawag na V-Day na araw ng pagkilos ng pandaigdigang kilusan upang wakasan ang karahasan sa mga kababaihan. Bumabangon ang 1 bilyon sa pamamagitan ng sama-samang pagsayaw upang ipagdiwang ang pagkakaisa at paninindigan ng kababaihan na hindi matatalo ng mapansamantala, mapang-api at mapang-abusong sistema. Bagamat marami tayong nakitang tagumpay sa mga nakaraang taon, nananatiling laganap at lumalala ang karahasan at kawalan ng katarungan. Halos 2 dekada na ang nakalipas magmula nang ipinasa ang Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act of 2004, ngunit kulang na kulang pa rin ang datos pagdating sa epekto ng mga hakbangin sa ilalim ng batas na ito. Hindi rin mabilang ang lawak ng kabiguan ng otoridad pagdating sa pagpapanagot ng may sala at pagkamit ng hustisya sa lahat ng mga nagiging biktima ng mga paglabag sa anti-vowsy law. Nasaksihan rin natin ang malaking pagbagsak ng bilang ng mga naiuulat na kaso ng vowsy noong kasagsagan ng COVID-19 pandemic. At lalo pa itong nagpalala ng kakulangan ng pagpapatupad ng mga hakbang sa ilalim ng anti-vowsy law. Dapat lamang singilin ang rehimeng Marcos sa obligasyon nitong palakasin ang mga mekanismo upang tiyakin na abot kamay sa mga kababaihan ang impormasyon ukol sa kanilang mga karapatan, mga available remedies at proseso ng reporting ng mga kaso ng vowsy. Mahalaga rito ang sama-samang aksyon at tugon sa namamayagpag na kultura ng pagbaling, pagsisi, stigma at diskriminasyon sa mga biktima ng vowsy at gender-based violence. Matagal na ring nananawagan ang Gabriela Women's Party na isabatas na ang panukala na binibigyang kahulugan ang electronic vowsy, kabilang ang pagpapakalat ng mga litrato sa social media, paggawa ng fake social media accounts, stalking, online harassment, at iba pa. Sa konteksto ng anti-Bausi Law. Nagpapataw rin ito ng parusa sa private agencies o ahensya ng gobyerno na magkakait ng 20 days na vowsy leave, 20 araw na vowsy leave. Dagdag pa rito ang pagpapalawig ng definisyon ng rape, pangunahin ang pagtatalakay sa konsepto ng consent kung saan inililinaw na hindi pagpayag sa rape ang kawalan ng panlalaban at ipinagbabawal na maabswelto ang suspect sa pamamagitan ng pagpapakasal sa biktima. Layon rin ito na magbigay ng definisyon sa grooming at nagpapataw ng parusa rito. Sa paglaban sa karahasan sa kababaihan at gender-based violence sa mundo naman ng paggawa, signifikanteng hakbang na ang matagumpay na kampanya na ratipikahan ang International Labor Organization Convention Number 190 o C-190. Ang pinakaunang pandaigdigang tratado para sa mundo ng paggawa na malaya sa karahasan at panliligalig. Nitong Disyembre 2023, pinagpupugayan ng Gabriela Women's Party ang lahat ng mga manggagawa, union, labor rights advocates, mga lingkod bayan, gayon din ang mga miyembro ng kapulungang ito, kasama ang parliamentarians and advocates for Ratify C-190 na kumilos para ratipikahan ang ILO C-190. Hindi natatapos sa ratifikasyon ang laban. Sa gitna ng kawalan ng trabaho, laganap na kontraktualisasyon at pambabarat ng sahod, kailangan tugunan ng pamahalaan ang mga kakulangan at mga dapat baguhin sa ating mga national laws. Gayon din ang paggarantiya ng mga reporting, redress at grievance mechanisms para sa mga manggagawa, kasama na ang mga nasa informal na sektor ng paggawa. Halimbawa ng dapat ayusin ay ang pag-amyenda sa Safe Spaces Act upang palawigin ang definisyon ng workplace tungong world of work. Kasama dito ang mga lugar na may kaugnayan o kinalaman sa trabaho. Sa pangkabuuan, maging mapagbantay at kumilos tayo laban sa niraratsyadang mga hakbang na lalong nagwawasak sa ating pambansang ekonomiya at nagaharang sa mga hakbang para sa tunay na reforma sa lupa at pambansang industrialisasyon. Ilan lamang ito sa mga susunod na hakbang na kayang-kaya nating anihin sa pamamagitan ng nagkakaisa at kolektibong aksyon ng mga kababaihan at lahat ng kasama sa paglaban sa pang-aapi, pagsasamantala at pandarambong sa ating bayan. Inaanyayahan ng Gabriela Women's Party ang lahat na makiisa sa 1 Billion Rising Campaign at ipagtagumpay ang laban para sa pantay na karapatan, katarungan at tunay na kalayaan. Ipakita natin, 1 bilyong babae ang babangon, ito na ang ating panahon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the speech of the Honorable Arlene Brosas be referred to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Arlene Brosas is hereby referred to the Committee on Rules.
Motion to suspend, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended. Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, considering that there is no other member who wishes to avail of the privilege hour, I move that we close the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion of the Majority Leader is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider Committee Report number 924, and for such purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the subject matter of the committee report.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The Secretary General is directed to read the subject matter of the Committee Report 924.
Committee Report 924, regarding the motu proprio inquiry in aid of legislation on the alleged recycling reward system and the alleged commission received by the Assets Non-Organic Intelligence People of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency and House Resolution number 495 on the alleged involvement of some police officials to the 990 kilo shabu haul worth 6.7 billion pesos in Tondo, Manila.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of findings and recommendations as contained in Committee Report number 924.
There is a motion to adopt the findings under the Committee Report 924. All those in favor, please say aye. All those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Committee Report number 924 is hereby adopted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to designate the following members to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 9682 and Senate Bill number 1964 on the granting of teaching supplies allowance for public school teachers, namely Representative Roman T. Romulo, Representative Stella Luz A. Kimbo, Representative Christopher De Venecia, Representative Lani Mercado Revilla, and Representative Franz L. Castro. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion of the Majority Leader? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the majority, I move to nominate and elect to the Committee on Mindanao Affairs as chairperson Representative Yevgeny Vicente B. Emano, Vice Representative Yasser Alonto Balindong. To the Commission on Appointments as members, Representative Mercedes K. Alvarez, Vice Representative Greg G. Gasataya, and Representative Roy M. Loyola, Vice Representative Manuel T. Sagarbaria. To the Committee on Local Government as chairperson, Representative Manuel Sagarbaria, Vice Representative Mercedes K. Alvarez, and to the Committee on Appropriations as Vice Chairpersons, Representative Greg Gasataya, Vice Representative Roy Loyola, and Representative Loreto B. Acharon, Vice Representative Mercedes Alvarez. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The aforementioned representatives are hereby elected to their aforementioned committees. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adjourn session until tomorrow, February 13 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Session is adjourned until tomorrow, February 13 at 3 p.m.